This morning, we want to look at something that normally we take for granted. When we are building a house, we assume that everything is in place. We assume that we have the professionals, i.e., we have the architect, we have the engineers, or areas of engineering, including structural, mechanical, electrical services engineers. We also have professionals like the quantity surveyor, very important, and also project managers have in the recent past become part of our um, building professionals. And when we have that, when a client has that team on the ground, they go ahead and, of course, look for the contractor through a professional methodology guided by the quantity surveyor, because there was a work of the quantity surveyor is to guide in the administering of the tender, preparation of the tender documents and everything else, bill of quantities and so on and so forth. And the client is good to go. And once the contractor is on board, um, then there is a usual, it's expected, of course, everything has gone through the necessary registrations. You have the county approvals, you have the environmental approvals, you have the National Construction Authority approvals. All the paperwork is there, and it is assumed that you are good to go. And most of the time, maybe 90% of the time, you find if you have these systems put in place that way, then it's possible to have um, the work going on as scheduled. But sometimes you may find accidents happen. And most of the times we ask ourselves, why do accidents happen? And the accidents could be in two forms. You could, one, have the building could fail, could collapse, partially collapse, or you could even have some falling debris, or even workers could even have accidents within the site. So it's very important every time there is a site to bear that in mind, so that everything is put in place to counteract the possibilities of such accidents. However, when that happens, one thing comes to mind of most people, and that is what happened. So, why did the building collapse? And this is the question I want us to ask ourselves. But instead of asking ourselves, why do buildings collapse? I want us to look at it the other way around. Let's ask ourselves, because we know there are many buildings which are put up, but only a few collapse. Why do the others not collapse? How come not every building collapses? And within this, I want to put a case study of Eiffel Tower in Paris, right in the center of Paris. Today, we are in Paris, and when you come to Paris, you cannot avoid visiting the world's most visited place. And where are we? We are at the Eiffel Tower. So it is very interesting to ask ourselves what was the motivation behind. And this was started in July 1887 by engineer Gustave Eiffel. And the motivation was, or the inspiration was, it was a world fair in 1889 of the Universal Exposition to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution. The Eiffel Tower was built in 22 months. So if it was started in 1887, it was completed in March 1889. And if you search, you'll find that this must have been a very motivated engineer who put this monument up. It is based, as you can see in my background, it is built on 125 meter by 125 meter square, and it is 300 meters high. And it is all made of steel, and the connections are bolted, as you can see. Again, Remember, we are in Paris, in Europe, where the temperatures change from very cold. Right now, you can see it's very cold to very hot. And therefore, you would ask yourself, the person who did this in 1887 must have been really somebody with great outlook. They had considered the expansions, because when metal or steel gets cold, it contracts, and when it hots up, it expands. And as you can see, the monument is still quite intact. It is based on a three-dimensional arc. You can see there are how many arches, main arches. There is the inner one, 4 of them. And then on the external, there are truss members. And there are different levels, as you can see. It's quite inspiring. And therefore, what lesson do we learn when we come to the Eiffel Tower? The lesson we learn here is what motivates you. Are you motivated to do anything that will outlive you for generations to come? This tower, as we said, is the most visited paid monument in the world, and it receives 7 million visitors annually. So as far as tourism is concerned, Gustave Eiffel had seen that. He had seen over 130 years ahead. Are you able to see that far? Or you see only your nose? Lesson learned. Let's stop only seeing our noses, our eyes just looking at our noses. Let us look 300, 400 years beyond, and this will leave a legacy. Again, this is Education Without Borders. We have come all the way to Paris, and we cannot leave Paris without telling you about Eiffel Tower. Next time you come to Paris, visit Eiffel Tower, and you agree with me that is a marvel. Magnificent. And for structural engineers, you need to zoom in and recreate something like that. If you have a free piece of land somewhere, you could think of putting up a tower like this, where tourists can be coming from all over the world. Let's learn from Gustave Eiffel. Keep watching and don't forget to subscribe. Today was a motivating day. It may be cold, but we feel very motivated. Here in Paris, we are at around 6 degrees maximum, but we feel very happy to come out here and educate, because Education Without Borders is not limited by temperatures. So that when it's cold, you say you not teach. We teach whether it's cold or hot. Keep watching and don't forget to subscribe, to share, and to like. We shall be back. Eiffel Tower is not just a monument, but it has a lot of history, culture, a lot of sentimental attachment, because it survived the First World War. And despite the fact that Hitler had ordered for its demolition, the French resisted, and therefore they have very strong attachment and value for the tower. And on the tower also, artists, hundreds and hundreds of artists have used this tower to paint, to do them on postcards, on t-shirts, to designers. And artists are a very important part of cultures. Other people who have made use of this tower are filmmakers. This is a wonderful place to shoot a movie. So if you are thinking of shooting a movie, I think you can consider it's beautiful. And if you look at the structure itself, it looks like it's made from different systems, several systems. There is the arch, the first system. Then on the arch, the main arches, the three-dimensional arches, you have another system. You can see the rectangular system. Then on top of it, there is the skewed truss columns, okay? And then on top of that is connected to another system, and it goes narrowing down. And therefore you can imagine the motivation is an engineering marvel, because you have to design this not only for the weight but also the wind, the strong winds. Because as you can see, it's a very light structure because it's made of steel and it's very hollow inside. It is also very useful because for those of us who love hiking, you can go up. You can go up 300 meters. It's almost like going up a hill or a mountain, because there are some stairs. You can already see some people going up the stairs. So this is a multi-purpose tower, which for people who see beyond should think about investing in that. So we'll continue talking about the tower, and we'll show you more pictures about the tower and get inspired.